Hello, welcome to another Car Guy video. Today's video, I'm going to be changing the head unit, the stereo system in the FF. Now, this is going to be a big job. I've done a lot of research on this online, and if you too own an FF and are trying to do this job as well, you'll know that information on such projects are very thin on the ground. I think most people bottle it and take it to an audio installer, and that's why information is very difficult to come by. So as you can see, I've got a Pioneer, that's the model number there, it's an EVO64DAB. So this video is recorded in 2022. I think it's about, the model itself is about a year old, so it's quite a modern one. Has DAB, obviously, has wireless Android Auto and Apple Carplay. I have an Android phone, so the wireless Android Auto will be awesome for me. You can actually see the phone that I'm currently recording this on is connected wirelessly. It's my Galaxy S10. So yeah, I think that's just going to be a massive thing. The reasons for doing it, so I've got the upgraded Ferrari hi-fi system. I'm not so much doing it for sound quality, although I do know from having changed head units in cars in the past, I know that you generally tend to get better sound quality, and the research I've done, most people have said that if you change nothing else but the head unit on the FF, it sounds a lot better. So yes, that's one thing, but the biggest thing is just the upgrade in technology, the ability to have wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, to just have my phone in my pocket or to stick it in the center console and not have it stuck up on the dashboard, and to have Google Maps, where in fact my preference is forget the name of it now, Waze. It came to me in the end. My preference is Waze, so to have that up on the screen, just that in itself will be a bit of a boon for me. But also the things that the FF standard head unit doesn't have, DAB, that would be great to have that added in. The FF head unit does have internal storage for MP3s, because that's how I prefer to listen to music, is just all through MP3. So this does that as well via a USB stick, which I'll be using. So that's fine. It's more or less the same. It's a much clearer screen as well. And I'll be adding a couple of extra features, such as camera. Ignore the quality of that. The camera's both upside down and also covered in a piece of plastic. So I don't have cameras, so I'm going to install front and rear cameras. There's going to be a lot of things to cover in this video because there's lots of things to install. But yeah, that's the reasons for wanting to change it, to add some technology, just to bring the technology more up to date. A little bit of increased sound quality. I'm interested to see how that will work out. But yeah, just to bring it all a bit more up to date. So as you can see, we're not in the car. I've just got this set up in my office. I've just been testing some things out. Some things that you'll have to know, and I'll be honest, I don't know if these are going to work yet until such times I actually go to install them in the car. So you will need fascia plates to go either side of the head unit. Okay. Now again, if you try and do this yourself and you look for Ferrari FF double DIN or 2-DIN fascia, nothing will come up. The big secret that the installers won't tell you, because obviously they want their business and fair play to them, I'd do the same, they won't tell you the parts that you need. So this, the standard head unit is the standard head unit that was sold in most Fiats, Chryslers and Jeeps between about 2007 and 2012. So if you search for a Chrysler Sebring or a Chrysler Jeep from around the same era, and for these fascia plates, you'll get the right one. So these are from a company called Connects 2. It's actually that one there, Connects number 2. And this is a Connects 2 Chrysler Sebring / Jeep 2-DIN fascia. And if you're familiar, if you have an FF, you'll know instantly that profile on the left hand side, that sort of tapered edge profile, you'll recognize it immediately. So yeah, we'll go through how that fits into here. I've already measured it. It's definitely right. These holes don't line up but that's fine. I will figure out how to do that. I bought 2 sets because they're only about £10 each, just in case I break a set. You will have to install a DAB antenna. It's meant to go on the front windscreen. It's ugly. I don't know if I want it on the front windscreen. I might try rear quarter window. I'm not sure. I'm days or weeks away from actually getting to that point, so we will cover that at some point. What else is there to cover? This is the other thing. So the FF has got a USB port on the side of the head unit, which obviously we'll lose, and there's another one where the passenger display would be if you had it. I don't, so I've got a USB port. I don't know what happens if you have passenger display. Maybe you don't have a USB port at all, but either way, that's not going to work either. So this thing's got USB-C, although that's an adapter. So I'm not going to bother with the old USB ports. I'm going straight to USB-C. Most of the stuff I own now is USB-C. Even the little USB stick that I purchased to put all my music on is USB-C. So I'm going to bring it right up to standard. There is only one socket on the back of the head unit, and as you can see, this thing's got 2. So what I'm going to do is run an adapter so that one of them is simply plugged into 12 volt power into the car. So one of them will act as a charger if I need it, and the other one will house the USB stick. And I'm going to put that, I haven't quite decided, it's either going to be in the glove box or I'm going to put it in the center console, so only sort of the front fascia bit will show. You can see the thread there where you put the plastic up. I think that would be quite cool, the ability to do that. Yes, you could just plug the phone in to charge it, but then then it's not wireless Android Auto and CarPlay. So I want just one to be a charger if I want to charge my phone, but also I will have this stick in because of, again, the way I listen to music is everything on the stick, not through my phone. So that's the head unit. I'm not going to go into the specs too much of the head unit. I mean, you could have got any brand. I just chose Pioneer just because I've had them in the past, and also I really wanted that wireless Android Auto and CarPlay. A lot of them seem to have CarPlay, but the Android Autos are sort of like the poor cousin of it. This one's full feature for both models. Yeah, so that's the head unit. The biggest hurdle that you'll come across, and the one that took me probably the most amount of time, is what you call the CANBUS wiring loom. So if you've ever wired up a head unit in the past, you'll know that generally speaking, all the signals that are sent between the head unit of the car are via wires. So like you'll have a 12 volt wire which sends a signal in to say, the car is in the key mode, the key point accessories, or to say the car is switched on. You have another 12 volt signal pin in saying the park brake is on, or reverse gear is engaged, or please turn on the amplifier. Things like these signals. Most modern cars don't do that, and this was the sort of learning curve that I had to find out about. It's all sent through the CAN bus, and the CAN bus is the bus or the network inside most modern cars, which rather than having 12 volt pulses for each message, it just goes through a computer, and the computer says turn on the amplifier, the car is in reverse gear, the park brake is on, etc. So you need a box which will translate those signals from the car and then put them to a more standard system that you can then use for these types of things. So months of research to find a company in Italy called Pacer. Funnily enough, I actually had to buy this from the Netherlands, but the company is Pacer, and the website that I found, it's a company that I got it from. That was the system that I got, and you'll actually see here that it talks about specifically the Ferrari FF. So I had to tell them what car I had, because that dictated. I think this box works on lots of different cars. Again, it's those same names: Chrysler, Fiat, Jeep. But then I needed the plug and play harness because if you look at these wires, there's these booklets, sorry, there's loads of books that tell you, you know, what color wire will deal with what function. But if you get the proper plug and play harness, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. The harness simply plugs into the box, and then you have what we call the ISO, which are the standard connections, that brown one and that black one, and they're the ones that plug into that standard socket there. Now, I talk about it as though it's a done deal and that this is just going to work. I don't actually know. I mean, you can't really get more precise than that. I mean, that's it. Ferrari FF, California and California TN 599. That is it. So it should work, but you never know with these things. And worryingly, the chap I bought it from, he said that's the last one they had. He said, I hope it works, which was promising. So yeah, we've got this. I already know from googling pictures of the standard Chrysler MiGig unit that is the plug that sits on the back. So I know just by looking at that that's correct. Standard antenna in, or Ferrari or Chrysler antenna in, normal ISO type antenna out. And then, that's what this does as well, is it also interprets the signals from the steering wheel controls on the back of the FF steering wheel. And then that takes it from Ferrari. There's an end on it here somewhere. There it is. This is another cable you have to buy. Well, again, if you specify to them that you've got the FF from this company, they'll give you the right stuff. So that takes it from there. And then this sort of looks like a headphone jack. That is the standard connection that's on the back of that. So I think I've got everything I need. The biggest thing now is getting the head unit out, which from what I've seen involves removing the entire lower section of the dashboard, some of the upper section, the HVAC controls. It looks like quite a job, and I've been putting it off because it's been nice weather and I've been using the car and it's been in like shows and stuff like that, so I didn't want to have half the interior missing. So I'm going to start this any day soon, and you'll join me in a moment when we're at that point. So we're in the garage now. I'm not sure if I have to disconnect the battery for the entire time, but just in case we do, just crack the windows down a little bit. You can see it's just a finger width. That's all you need, just so it doesn't get caught underneath. Done that obviously to both sides. You do, when you take the interior apart, I think we're going to have to take the side panels off, remove this bottom section here, and this section which stops at the steering wheel and goes over there. We'll also probably have to take the glove box off as well. So because of that, we'll obviously be taking apart this section as well, so it's probably a good idea just to pop the bonnet latch just so it's open in case we need to get in there, because obviously if we need to isolate the battery, that's in there as well. You don't have to physically disconnect the battery, there is a little isolation switch for that. So yeah, pop the windows down, pop the bonnet. I don't think we need the boot, but I suppose we could just do that as well. And then I say it in almost every single video, get the Ferrari FF workshop manual. Email me or message me if you don't have it and you need it. It's a 941 page document on pretty much everything. Skip to page 622 or E4.02, and that explains step by step what you need to take apart. I'm probably not going to document every single section of taking it apart, otherwise this is going to be a really long video, but yeah, just go to that section. I think there was another page that we need to go through again, but this pretty much covers it all. Of course, this is the section of removing the dashboard from the car, so this will actually take everything out of the car, so don't copy it verbatim. just look at the bits that don't apply to you and omit those. So I don't need to take the instrument binnacle off, so I'm not going to do that. I don't need to take the steering column off, so I'm not going to do that. I am going to take the end plates off, so I'm going to do that, both sides. This is underneath, that's the driver's side, so I'm going to be doing that. And following all those steps. There you go, that's on a left-hand drive car obviously, but on my side, we just looked under that on my side. I'll be taking that panel off. Yeah, so just follow these steps. Just to add as well, make sure you have suitable tools for doing this. Plastic, not metal, prize tools. For example, one of the very first steps will be removing that. It actually says use a suitable prize tool. So stuff like this. And then, I mean, these are more for door cards, for pulling off those annoying plastic things that always break. This only costs like £20 off Amazon, so make sure you got one of those. And obviously you will need something with torques, screwdrivers and things like that. I'm just going to do a quick little update. You know, as I said, follow the instructions in the workshop guide, and it's more or less as per what it says. For whatever reason, I decided to start on the passenger side. The passenger side was really easy to get that apart. It's self-explanatory. Follow the instructions, and it's an absolute doddle. Over this side, there's some arrows pointing on the diagram to some screws up here and various places. But there's a couple of things that it doesn't mention to you, and I've only found these out myself. So there are, so up underneath the steering wheel, where you can kind of get your hand up in here, there's a little bit of access. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the light there. You see, I mean, it's come down a little bit now, but you can see there where there was a thread. There's a hex bolt. There you go, one of those there. That's a, you'll need an 8mm socket for that. And there's one on the other side, so you've got to go up through that way, and there's one here, so then it drops down. But then the other thing, there's something still not letting it go down. So I was thinking, well, what's that? And it's this bracket here. But to get to it, and again, it doesn't mention this at all. And this bit, this is the ducting that you know feeds into there. There's just a little Torx screw, the same one that you would have used to do everything else. You just need to take that off, move it out the way, and then you can get to that. And I imagine now, once I take this off, oh yeah, it's all going to come falling down. Unless I was missing something. I swear it didn't say anything about having to do that. Ah, look at that. Wonderful. Okay. Well, there you go. So obviously I've got this extra thing. If you haven't seen my exhaust valve video, that's what that is for. That's why that lives there. Hey, this is different. So, yeah, my workshop manual's different. My workshop manual says that this is attached to the back of here. It's not at all. And it does not say that this bracket exists, because this bracket is holding it in. And that's broken. And I haven't broken that, because otherwise there'd be a broken plastic bit down here. That's annoying. Yeah, okay. So it looks like we've just got to disconnect some stuff, and I have heard people say to watch out for this thing. Apparently there's a little motor, a little fan, supposedly, and it's what is meant to detect the temperature in the car for the climate control. Okay, well, yeah, if there's anything else that goes against what the manual says, I'll update you like that. So another update with the HVAC controls. the Ferrari manual tells you to use pry tools on either side of these. I tried that, and all it was doing was bending this plastic bit up, and I just thought it was beyond what I was willing to tolerate, and possibly could have snapped it off. So I I perched myself upside down on the chair with my head down there and looked up through the passenger side gap. I've got a little light strapped to my forehead, so I was able to see through the gap, and through the gap I could see that what was holding it in were these two metal clips. So you can actually reach your hand up through that gap. I just used a tool, a plastic tool, to push the tab down. As soon as I pushed the first tab down with my other hand, I was able just to push it out and it came out. So yeah, I don't know about just using a pry tool on that. It seemed like it was too tough to be able to get through that. But anyway, that's done. And you just got two clips on the back for the cables to unplug. It was those ones. So the ones where you have to push down the plastic tab here to get this out, and then as you push, it ejects it out of the socket. So now it looks like we've got, I've obviously undone the two on either side again, as the manual says. I've now got these two to undo, which will hopefully get rid of this, and then we can get up to here and finally get to the head unit. Okay, so the dash is almost out. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what to tell you. If you've got passenger display, there's probably a connector behind that. If you don't, that doesn't actually have to come out at all. This bit now just lifts out. There are two more screws, and they're behind. I'm going to show you when I flip this around. They probably line up about here and here, and they're pointing directly up. So let me show you. Okay, so there's the back. Those screws alright, so hang on. Just remember, you're going to be looking at this from upside down. So here it is, it's upside down now. So there it is, pointing towards the back of the car. It's right in there. Okay, you can see it if you lie down on the floor and put your head up. It'll be quite far away. You'll need a socket extension to reach it. And then there's an identical one sorry, just trying to get the light on it. There it is there. You can see how close it is. Look, that's the trim where the air vents are. It's right underneath it. While you're under there, it's best to disconnect. That's one that goes to the buttons on the front that control the onboard computer, and I believe that's right next to the head unit. I think that's the one that the one I showed you at the beginning of the video, actually, the box that I've now got to replace that with, which does the CANBUS stuff for the steering wheel, etc. These ones you just disconnect as you pull it out. Okay. Well, I've decided to bring this in the office with me, where I've got the other head unit. Again, it looks like sockets. It's a 7mm socket. I think I'm going to have to do both of them there, and then do the exact same hex bolt. I keep calling it a Torx before it's actually hex. Have these got an identifier on it? No. Sorry, but it's it's that. Yeah, there's two on the other side as well. I think that's all we need to do. I'll detach that from there and update you. Okay, I keep saying hex bolt. I don't know what it is, but it's like sort of like an Allen key head. There were those screws I was referring to before. Forget what I said about that. That's actually the back of the thread of screws, so you don't take those off. It's just those Allen key screws. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other side, obviously. 5, 6, 7, 3 along the top, just under where the air vents would be. Whoa, there it is. Okay. Okie dokie, so head unit detaches from this frame with 4 more of those Allen key style bolts, against exact the same size that you've used to take basically the entire dash apart, and then you're left with the frame. So you've got your standard, doesn't matter what you've got, Pioneer, Clarion, whatever, that is a standard 2-DIN or double DIN head unit, and then you've got your I will put links for all the products in the description, but these are the Jeep, Chrysler, Fiat thingamajigs. So they do need a little bit of modification. So if you have a look at the top, I've had to cut a small notch out. Can you see that there? Let me zoom in. There we go. There. Because that doesn't sit like that, because if you have a look, then this doesn't line up. That has to go in and tuck in over the front. Does that make sense? And obviously, so you don't want to be cutting the bit that you see, it's the bit behind it. It must be 5mm, and I just used a sharp knife to do that. So from the front, it looks like that. Again, yeah, so because you're not mounting it like that, it sits over the front. So yeah, not like that, over the front like that. And the other bit that has to be cut off is this, let me zoom back out again, is this section, because when this is attached to the head unit and we slide it in, you can see that's in the way, so we can get rid of that. I'll do that now. Yes, you don't have to be pretty about how you cut that off, just lop it off. And then it goes in, which allows those screw holes to line up on there. So I've got the head unit installed into the dashboard. I just took it completely out of the car and decided to do it here in my office. Some things to note. I did have to modify the cage. The stock head unit is actually not double DIN. If you have a look, there's probably just a little bit of it missing, probably about 5mm missing from the top and the bottom. Whereas of course this is double DIN. So the front of the top of the cage is fine. This is the top, that's the bottom. The top's fine because if you use something like this Pioneer, it's not full height anyway. But the bottom was too big, so I've had to actually cut. I've had to cut the bottom of the cage completely off. But that's fine. It's only there to support the weight of that. And this thing weighs, by hand, it feels like it weighs more than double than what that is. So that's fine. That is in there, very secure. There's nothing really else to add about that. Make sure you don't remove this little box here. That's the standard, like the factory CANBUS for the steering wheel. You'll need that as well as your other CANBUS that we covered before. And then yeah, that's what it looks like from the front. So yeah, fairly pleased with that. Looking forward to getting it all connected. So we're in the car now, and I've just temporarily got the dashboard sitting there. Don't forget to plug in the old CAN bus that I was talking about, the small box that sits next to the cage. That must be plugged in before this thing will recognise itself. There's a note here And again, this is assuming that you buy the Payzer model, and it says that attention on some Chrysler units, the CANBUS can be exchanged in the polarity, not knowing whether it would be CAN H or CAN L. That was true of mine. It says to switch the red and greens, sorry, the white and greens, and I had to do that to mine. So you can see here that white is going to green now and green is going to white. There are a couple of loose cables here. I'll update you with those, but essentially one is I think the yellow one is negative handbrake terminal. I'm not sure if I'm going to put that on or not. Blue is the positive reverse gear output, and grey is the odometer signal. So I know that the I can't really reach it, sorry, but on the Pioneer, actually you can see them just dangling down there with the purple labels on them. One of them says handbrake, and the other one says what does the other one say? Yeah, one says handbrake and one says reverse gear. So I'll have to hook those up myself, just so that when I stick it in reverse it triggers the camera on its own. So that's all good. When you jump in the car, you supply power to it, and they give you this little pin here to push the reset button. Press and hold the reset button for about 10 seconds, take it out. It should flash red for about 10 seconds and then go to green if it's understood the car. If you don't get green, then perhaps you don't have the right model. So this does have, like I said, lots of literature about changing jumpers and things like that, but I've not had to change anything on this other than the polarity of those CANBUS power cables. So it should just work based on the model numbers and everything that I've shown you previously. The only thing you have to do is get it to learn the steering wheels on the car, and again, it is in the instruction manual how to do that. If for some reason you have lost yours, that's them there if you want to pause it and make a copy. It's quite simple. So without the ignition plugged in, of course you don't need the ignition on for it to do this. There's always power going to it. So once you've got that green solid, check that the radio turns on, etc. Hop back in the car, have everything turned off, have the ignition turned off. Press and hold this to reset it, and it will start flashing green again, meaning that it's in reset mode and ready to go. And then you immediately turn your full ignition on. You press the volume up button. So just in case you can't remember because you haven't used your steering wheel controls for a while, your volume up is on the left hand side, up and down, and the seek track up and down or backwards and forwards is over here. So I'd press the volume up button 5 times, and then when you do that, this light will start flashing green. Then once that happens, you give one short press of the seek up button, just once, and then the light will turn to fixed green. Once you've done that, get this pin and push the reset button 5 times, just normal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it will flash and go back to green. Once you've done that, you're done. Turn the ignition off, turn it back on again, and test, and you will see that we have that. And then if I press the seek button, there we go. Volume. That's brilliant. Can't ask for more than that, really, can I? Just actually, I don't know what the button in the middle does. What does the button in the middle? Just like the Ferrari did. So the button there's a button obviously in the middle here between seek up and back. The button is changing the source. Let me just quickly go back to music for a second, because I think, oh, there's DAB. I think the button in the middle used to mute. Yes, okay, cool. So the button in the middle mutes. That's quite good. Excellent. I'll just mute that. Don't want YouTube to ban me for copyright or something. So yeah, it's all gone pretty well straightforward. Just a little bit of modification with these, as you saw, and of course having to modify that tray. It's going to be excellent having DAB. I mean, I'm in my garage and it's picked up all the DAB channels that I expected to and more, so that's working well. The penalty obviously is that's a bit ugly, but can't do much with that. I think that's pretty well everything. Obviously, I've just got to put the car back together. I've got a few extra jobs to do because I'm adding front and rear cameras, but I'm not going to document that on this video because I guess most people just want to know, does this actually work and how can I do it? When you're connecting up at the back, part of that adapter cable is to take you from this kind of strange connection just to a normal one. Obviously the DAB antenna you've bought from Pioneer, if you've got Pioneer or whatever. You will have two of these. One is white and they're identical, and it is possible to plug it in incorrectly if you don't know which one is which. There is another one here somewhere. Here it is. And it's blue and it's exactly the same, and you can plug the antenna adapter. This is just the AM FM antenna. It is possible to plug that into there. In case you're wondering what that is, that's the old GPS antenna. You know, depending what you're doing, you might want to use that. For me, there is no GPS on this unit. It's obviously getting all that through CarPlay and Android Auto. Although there is a GPS antenna that comes with it, but it's not for GPS. It's to figure other stuff out, location, region, because it automatically sets the date and time and stuff like that, and that just comes with its own antenna, and I've just mounted that just up underneath the dashboard as close as I could to under here so it gets a good signal. So yeah, you don't need that, but just in case you're wondering what it was. Anything else to mention? I don't think so for now. I'll obviously put everything back together. I'll connect these wires up for reverse signal and check that it triggers the reverse camera and all that sort of stuff, and if there's anything worth updating you about, I will. Just to update, on the back of the Pioneer head unit, I got those two incorrect. There is a handbrake one. So the handbrake is the green one, or the park brake. I'm not actually going to use that, just in case it stops me from viewing the camera at speed. If I want to flick on the front or rear camera, it might stop me from doing that, so I'm just not going to connect that one up. I'll let you know if that turns out to be the wrong decision or it causes some sort of issue. Hopefully it doesn't. The two that are sort of loose here and labelled, the pink one is the car speed input and purple is reverse gear, and then you've then got these three spare ones that come out the CANBUS, and they are labelled. Sorry, they're not labelled, but they are on here if you just want to take a shot of that in case you've lost your literature. But I've got a yellow and a white, which is the handbrake output. I've got a blue one, which is positive rear gear, and I have grey, which is odometric signal, speed signal. So I'm going to be putting that grey to the pink, and I'm going to be putting blue to purple. Sorry, I should line that up. That's just a simple crimp style connection. So I'll get all that connected now. As you can see, everything is back together again. I didn't document the reassembly because it is actually just the reverse of the disassembly. The programming of the steering wheel control went all okay. There's nothing to update you with on that. I did make a bit of an error when I mentioned that I wouldn't connect the park brake. I thought I better research this. There's probably a reason why you do connect to the park brake. I thought that it wouldn't let me bring the camera up live in the car, but it only stops you from watching videos in the car, and you shouldn't be watching videos in the car anyway when you're driving. So I connected it, and apparently on the Pioneer unit, if you don't have the park brake on, when you go into some of the deeper settings, they're not available, because you shouldn't be playing too much with the settings, I suppose, when you're driving. Audio settings and stuff like that you can, but some of the more advanced settings. So I connected the handbrake up. Considerations for the things that I haven't mentioned, that you haven't seen. So it all went back together fairly normal. I did have a bit of an issue with DAB. So with, and maybe it's just something to do with the FF, but when I connected this up initially, I tested the DAB, I did a scan for channels, and it found everything, and everything was working brilliant. And then when I turned the ignition on, I noticed that there must be some sort of interference, and I actually had to pull everything apart again to sort of relocate the cable away from everything else. So yeah, I did that. That's just my ignition timing out. So yeah, I had to pull everything apart again. Up in here, I put some like foil insulation tape along the inside of here to cover some of the power lines that I couldn't move it away from, and then everywhere down here you could just pick somewhere where it's not next to a power cable. So I did that, and it improved it. But definitely when the full ignition is switched on, there is less reception. No doubt about it. There's no getting away from that. That just seems to be the way it is. So yeah, I can still get all the channels, but when I pull into the garage, I lose some of them. But that's fair enough. When I go out and drive, the signal seems to be good. So yes, turn the ignition back on and show you what's what. I won't drill too much into the features because it's obviously going to be very specific to what head unit that you get, but just in case you are looking at a Pioneer, just like the original factory unit, you get this message, but what I like about this one is you don't actually have to touch it. It changes, because if I look at the standard head unit of my Ferrari, where the OK button is that you have to press, otherwise it stays there forever, you can actually see it's worn down the screen, where people have had to constantly press the same spot. So I like that. That's cool. So you don't get any information over there. That just says track 2 CD. I didn't expect that to come over, but you know, hey ho. If I turn my lights on, you may be able to see this. Obviously the lights are automatic, but if I force them to turn on, that's not really coming through on the camera. Oh yes, you can see it. Can you see the screen fading off? So it is actually picking up, you know, to fade the screen. Now, can I bring up Android Auto while I'm on the phone to you? That I did. I just popped in some cameras. So that's the car that's behind me, and that's looking forward. So yeah, I think that's a cool feature. And yes, I have tested it. If you just flick it into reverse, this comes up. With guidelines, I've turned the guidelines off. I just basically want to be able to have a quick glance to see if there's anything behind me, like a small child or animal, before I back up. I don't actually use it to see where I'm going, but yeah, I just thought that was quite cool, and especially for the front, because the bonnet is so long. I'll just quickly show you where I've mounted them outside. Nice and discreet. In fact, the rear one's more discreet than factory. I've got it in the same location, but the factory one has this big sort of square lump there. I've managed to kind of drill straight into it, which I was a little bit apprehensive about drilling into the bumper, but hey ho. So there you go. That job is done. It is possible to DIY replace the head unit in your Ferrari FF. Any questions, please comment. Thanks for watching.